Hey guys, I hope you're having a really great day. My name is Karen and I'm so glad you can join me on Crafty Quilting Designs. So today I have a really great project, and in fact every day it's a great project for me, or every time we do these videos it's a great project because I love sewing and I love quilting. I do it normally in my daily life, and so therefore when it's time to share videos with you, it is so exciting to do so. So therefore it really is an exciting project. Anyway, I hope you're having a great day. Where I am, it's really a lovely day today, and I hope you're really well. I hope everybody is fantastic and doing great and having a wonderful time with their life, because I know sometimes it can be difficult to do that. Anyway, so my project today, we're going to be using up our scraps. Now, what I usually do with my scraps is make all my blocks as I finish a quilt. Now, I don't do that all the time, but just to cut down that workload, I tend to do that most of the time. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, so let's talk about these scraps. Now, I know a lot of people end up having scraps. I mean, I even have a lot of scraps at work, or I have a lot of scraps when I'm quilting in my own studio. So, and it can get a little bit overwhelming, overbearing sometimes, and sometimes you just don't know what to do with it. And so therefore, for me personally, what I tend to do to alleviate that stress is to sort of make all of my little scraps into little blocks. Now, I don't use tiny little pieces because I think that in itself is quite frustrating, and I think that contributes to more of the bulk of the scraps that you may end up having. So anything, you know, over the size of 2 inches, 3 inches, I tend to use. Anything less than that, I tend to throw away. All right, so if it's a 2.5 by 5, for example, I would keep something like that. Even if it's 2.5 by 3 or by 4, I will still keep that. If it's like 2.5 by 1, I'm afraid I do toss that, because I am just so wary of, you know, having so much bulk of scraps, and then you have to find places to store them. And I hate clutter, to be honest. I just like everything to be free and open, and I think it helps your creativity to flow. Now, as I said, I have a few of my blocks that I put together. So what I tend to do is, as soon as I have the fabric, or as soon as I finish my project, whether it's a bag or, you know, the cover, whatever it is, a quilt, and I have the scraps, I tend to sit there and I will sew together some blocks and use that up, and whatever other scraps I have, I will grab it as well, just to cut down on it. And what I will do is then stack them. So this is another block here, and as you can see, it's in pieces, and I don't necessarily do them in tiny pieces of strips of blocks. So whatever size the fabric is, I may cut it down. As you can see, these here I think are 5-inch squares. This at the top is an inch in length. Sorry, an inch square. What's wrong with me? It's an inch in size, and I think of these are also, yeah, this is 2 inches here, an inch, and another, I think, 2 inches there as well for this one. And as I just scrap pieces. This one I tend also I'll show you this one here again. Yeah, just different pieces of scraps, yeah, as again from finished projects that I put together, and it makes something really pretty. This one I absolutely love. Again, it is, yeah, so and I think this was a Christmas fabric that I made a Christmas quilt with, and the white, what I think was just many of those squares is left over, and I may cut the squares down as well. I also tend to make sample blocks, because guys, this is the most embarrassing thing. I dream about the quilts I'm going to make. I know that sounds really scary, and I should have better things to dream about, but yeah, I do dream about the quilts I'm going to make. I go to bed thinking about but what I'm going to do, etc., etc. So it's embedded in my head. So I tend to make sample blocks. I don't know if you can see that very well, because The light is quite bright on it. I tend to make sample blocks. So, and again, sometimes I don't follow through with that block because I may make the block and I just don't like it, or it doesn't appeal to me, or the colors I may use, as like, oh, I don't like it. So I never did went ahead and make this actual, and I think I made about 8 blocks out of it just to see how it will go, and I still didn't make the block. Behind me you can see some of the sample blocks. You can see this one here. I think that's a star, I can't remember actually. That one there is I use the Crazy 8s. I think I use the Crazy 8s for that one as well. In fact, tell a lie, I use the Crazy 8s rulers for all 3 of them that you see there. The one further along with the blue, I think that's an octagon, and I actually was sampling the colors to see if I'd like them, and I still haven't made the quilts out of them, but I will go ahead with the Creative 8 ruler, and I only used 2 rulers for that one. I think there's 5 particular shape rulers in that pack, and I was just playing around to see what other uses I can get out of the ruler, because I think the Creative 8 ruler is really made for scrappy quilts, so you can cut the shapes and put them all together. So yeah, that's basically what I do with my quilt. So I have put together 35 blocks for my quilt. I've laid them out already, and I will show you what they look like. And remember, it's a scrappy quilt, so the color coordination is all over the place, and I'm not one into scrappy quilts, to be honest. I like to have a little bit of planning and method that goes into my quilts, and but in reference to using up the quilt, the fabric, and making something useful out of it, that I am definitely into. So I will show you what it looks like so far, and to be honest, because I was actually, making my blocks as I go, probably I should call it a quilt as you go, scrappy quilt as you go. That's what I should probably call it, because realistically, to finish off all the blocks, all I really had to make was about 5 more blocks, really, because the most of them was already there. So I think if you get into that habit, it takes away the stress of having to think about ways to use up all of those scrappy bits. So I will share with you now what it looks like. I wouldn't show you me sewing scrappy bits together. I think there's tons of video out there already showing you how to put a scrappy quilt together. I just thought I will share with you my method of how I build a scrappy quilt. And as I said, I do that by simply making a block as and when I have used up fabric. So I finish a project, I have left of fabric, I will sit there and probably make about 6-7 blocks out of it and just stack them. And then once I feel I have enough, then I will put a quilt together. So that's basically how I do my scrappy quilts. So that's it really. So I will show you the quilt and the quilt top. Of course I haven't put it together as well, but I'll show you the quilt and tell you some of my ideas. And as I said, I typically like to have a little bit of plan for stuff, and because it's just a scrappy quilt and all the blocks are just there and all these colors are just rushing back at me, I'm having the urge to put some sashing in there, etc., just to give it a little bit of unity because the craziness of it is kind of getting to me. But yeah, but again, some people love those sort of quilts and some people don't. I am not sure as to where I stand at the moment, but yeah, that's where I am. So this one's going to be a gift. As to whom I'm going to give it to, I don't know. What I'm actually planning on doing is giving a quilt to a family member. I'm having a raffle for it. So, as COVID is actually sort of, well, I wouldn't say going away, but because we're being allowed out now, I thought it would be nice to have the family round every so often and have a quilt raffle and see who actually gets it. I think it'll be fun to do that, just to keep everybody happy and something to remember, you know, this sort of era that we all seem to experience in this lockdown. So yeah, so I'll share that with you, and let's go have a look at my scrappy quilt as you go. All right guys, so this is the quilt. So remember I had a little concern about all the colors being laid out, which I did lay it out, and it absolutely was playing havoc with my eyes. And so I felt that if it's playing havoc with my eyes, just laid together, it will do that for somebody else also. So I went ahead and put some sashing in between, and I went with a cream sashing, and I think it really tones it down but yet brings it together, and it looks really beautiful. I'm kind of falling in love with it now as I am looking at it in this state. There is, as I said, 35, that's it. So I have 35 blocks altogether, and I did it in 7 rows. Now remember I had some uniformity blocks, or blocks that I made up, and so I've added them to the quilt, and so I put them in every other row. So these ones were here, as well as on that side over there, and that one there. So I think this is the friendship star. I can't remember exactly which star this is. If you remember, just remind me. I have completely forgotten the star this is actually. And then I have these ones as well, and with them I have added these right to the corner. So the 4 corners have those blocks. Each 4 corners have these blocks here, and again, just to bring a little bit of uniformity to it so that it works. Now you can see a lot of patchwork as well in some of the blocks, and obviously these were just parallel lines that I used, and making life a lot more easier for myself. So as long as the fabric went together, it's what I actually went with. So I didn't do tiny piecing at all. I mean, looking at this one here, I just added this little stripe here, and these were left as they were. This one here, I think they're probably 1.5. This is probably 2.5, and these ones here as well. These were obviously pieced together, so these are smaller cuts, as well as those ones over there. This one here, random bits of cuts that I put together also, and I love this color combination as well. It's beautiful. These ones here, especially this block here, was actually from one of my quilts, or a video I've actually made, and if you look at my channel you will actually see that actual quilt. This fabrics here, these 2, is actually a Christmas quilt also. And I think one of the beautiful things about doing a scrappy quilt is that you can see all of your quilts that you've made, especially this one here is also from another quilt that I made as well. So that's it. So that's what it looks like. The only thing I'm slightly unsure about is to whether or not I should put a border in it. As it is, I think it's 80 by 65 or 70 at the moment, so it comes up really nicely. What I would say with my blocks is that I did not really measure them when I was making them. I did sort of trim them down when I was putting them together, and I will show you something that I did. I set off of them slightly, so when I put these together, all of them, I made sure they weren't lined up, because I wanted to try and keep it a little scrappy-ish in that sense, so they were offset. So at each point, they weren't laid out properly, and it's planned like that. That was the idea of it. So that's what I did in terms of it. So I mean, it's something you can do for your quilt also, just to give it, you know, a little bit of a twist rather than laying it out straight lines. Because realistically, what I've really done is just put a border around each of the blocks, just to highlight it and allow the block to stand out and give it a little bit of feature on its own, so that each block has an individual story to tell, so to speak. Because sometimes when it's all jumbled up, you know, it's just so much colors coming back at you. But as I said, my only sort of you know, challenge at the moment in certain terms of my mental state with the quilt is whether or not to put a border. I could just simply end it there. I could just put another stripe cream border just to surround it and then add another border, or I can just put the cream border and end it there, but I'm not sure. I haven't decided as yet. And then obviously once I've done that, then it's to do the quilting. And for the quilting that I've thought about, I'm going to try and quilt the blocks sort of individual, but not in all of the blocks, sort of uniformity. So probably every 3 blocks may look the same, more or less. And use the actual squares and all the parallel lines for the quilting as well. So something like this, I would sort of quilt a shadow around the star so that the star stands out, or something like that. You know, even something like this, I will just quilt around it so that all of the squares stand out and do probably meandering shapes, but I haven't thought much depth into it other than allowing some really nice features and nice fabric and squares, etc., to actually stand out or something like that. I want it to stand out a lot, even that one as well, and even these colors here. So probably, you know, something that really allows the fabric to look really beautiful. So that's it. So the next time I show you, you see the quilt will be completed, and you can let me know what you think. You know, hashtag quilt as you go scrappy quilt, you know, or make as you go scrappy quilt. But I'll let you know exactly what I have done, as I love sharing all my ideas with you. And yeah, let me know what you think of it so far. And do you think you can incorporate this idea of, you know, after you finish a project, to, you know, collect your blocks right there and then? Because as I said, I only had to make a really small number, I think it was 5 or 6, as I said, to finish off. The balance of it was already done, and I thought, oh, let me finally create this. And it didn't take long to build up. Imagine all of this is scrap in a box. How much is that? And to be honest, there isn't much left over from the scrap bin at all, and I will actually show you what is actually left over, and that's it. That's literally it. So, and this is from another quilt that I just made a couple days ago, so that's the new bit that's added there as well. So yeah, so that's really all the other left bit of scraps that's left over, as I said. So once I make them, I stack them on here, and then they get made into a quilt. So that's it, guys. I will show you the completed look, and then that will be it. So I'd love to see what you come up with. Okay, so it is finally ready, my scrappy quilt. So it is 35 blocks altogether, and I quilted it using my brand new sewing machine. My brother, I'm just, so that you know, I'm not being paid to actually say it. I'm just letting you know how the machine works really well. So it didn't take long to quilt. In fact, it was very smooth operation, hassle-free quilting. Front space was really good, and I had a joy doing it. So we will lay this all out, and I'll show you my quilting technique, and then discuss a little bit about the blocks and how I actually came about them. So as you know, it's just a scrappy quilt, and I just sewed the blocks together. So we'll take it from there, and then we will see what it looks like. I have laid it out so you can see what it looks like. Okay, let's have a closer look at some of the details that I did. And remember, I said that when I make my blocks, what I tend to do is make a block once I have finished with a project. And so that's what I did, and I sewed them all together. Now you can see where I've used really small pieces. For example, that one there, very tiny pieces to make up a block. Okay, so it's not always big pieces, so or big scraps that I put together to make up a block. Any little thing, sometimes I will add a little crumb in there as well to make up that particular block. Now initially when I make my blocks, I don't usually measure them. I will just make them to an average size and then I will cut them down. I did not really trim these down when I make them. Obviously it's a scrap quilt, so I didn't want to put too much effort into it. The idea is to make it scrappy and not so uniform. However, knowing how my brain works, when I laid it out, I wasn't very pleased with it. Not that anything was wrong with it, but there was so much colors that I didn't feel that it was well balanced. Just throwing all of these colors together. For some it might be okay, but for me it wasn't, and so therefore I decided was to add a 2-inch sashing in between all of the blocks, and so I'm very pleased with the outcome. It looks really lovely. I'm very happy with it. Now I did spend a lot of time doing quilting on them, and I did spend a lot of time doing separate sort of quilting techniques in each of the block. And again, this is a good way of practicing your free motion quilting, especially if you're using a domestic machine. Okay, as I said before, I usually add some blocks that I add in. So if I'm, working out a pattern for a quilt, I would make some sample blocks. Now you can see I did a motif in the middle there, and I didn't really add any quilting here, but I did the quilting around the star. Okay, there was a method in my laying out, so all of the corners have these koala bears here, all 4 corners, and as you can see where I had the square, I tend to do a motif there. I did another one there, and I did some leaves and pebbles. Pebbles played a really strong element in the free motion quilting for this one. I don't know if you can make out the feather there, and surrounding it was pebbles, so all around those pebbles. What I did add to the sashing was just some meandering on the sashing. So for this one as well, you can see I just did some swirly lines there. I did some circles there, or some massive pebbles, some swirls. Again, another motif on this one. And I used, as I said, the squares for that particular purpose. Here, I did a little bit of crumb quilting in this particular block, and I did some swirls on the green. So I would say if you're doing your scrap quilt, use it as a way of practicing all of those free motion quilting techniques. Just get used to it so that you're used to your machine, the machine's used to you, and everything works in harmony for you. I particularly like this block here, to be honest, so it's one of my favorite blocks. I like all the colors there. This one as well, it's another star, and again surrounded with a feather and some pebble. This one here, some triangles. So, works out pretty well. It came out beautiful. Again, the koala bears in the corner, as I said. Really, really lovely quilt. It lays really nice on the bed, actually, if I must say so. Again, this block here as well. Works out pretty good. Koala again in the corner of the quilt. So absolutely lovely. So guys, if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share. I mean, that's the whole purpose of doing this. I have noticed a lot of people are watching the videos but you're not subscribing, so it's really good when you subscribe. It gives me encouragement, it supports the channel, and it of course allows the channel to grow. So subscribe and let me know that you're actually enjoying what I'm doing. Feedback is always good, irregardless. So I look forward to seeing your feedback and seeing my numbers grow and all of these new subscriptions I am going to have. So if you're enjoying this video, guys, please don't forget to literally do that. I did try some serpentine lines here. If you can see, it's on the green. I did use white cotton for the quilting. I was a bit unsure as to what sort of cotton to use to do it, but I decided was to stay with white, and I think that worked out because there were so many colors. I didn't want to add more color to it. But on the back, which I absolutely love as well, you can see all of those quilting. I just used a very tiny floral black and white print, but it turns out really nicely on the back. You can see all of those quilting as well. So yeah, worked out really well. Very, very lovely quilt. So if you know you're planning on doing a scrap quilt, I hope this has encouraged you, and you will literally do yours, and you know, hashtag me on Instagram and let me see what it actually looks like. Absolutely beautiful. So do enjoy, have a great day, and I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial, and I shall see you next week. Bye for now. Happy quilting.